Most people believe mastery comes from thinking harder, planning better, or understanding more. The samurai believed the opposite. They trained until thought itself fell away because hesitation was more dangerous than ignorance. In battle, the mind that stops to ask questions is already too late. This is the path where action becomes pure and the self quietly disappears. Long before modern psychology tried to explain performance, Zen masters and warriors understood a single truth: the mind must be trained beyond the mind. Miyamoto Musashi wrote that technique is useless if it requires conscious effort. The sword must move before thought forms, or it will never arrive in time. This idea was not mystical to them. It was practical, forged in life and death conditions. This story is not about becoming faster or stronger. It is about becoming empty enough that nothing inside you interferes. It is about training so deeply that intention dissolves into action. This is the discipline where thought disappears. Chapter 1. The Noise of the Modern Mind. Kenji did not consider himself weak, but he knew he was divided. His days were filled with decisions, his nights with restless analysis, and his actions were always one step behind his intentions. He trained regularly, worked diligently, and studied endlessly, yet something fundamental was missing. When pressure arrived, his mind crowded the moment instead of serving it. This condition would have been familiar to the samurai. They called it the busy mind, a state where awareness is fragmented by internal commentary. In Zen, this is the mind that observes itself too closely and loses direct contact with reality. The more Kenji tried to control his performance through thought, the more resistance he felt inside. Musashi warned against this state directly. He wrote that fixation is the enemy of victory, whether fixation on the opponent, the weapon, or the self. A mind that clings to control creates its own weakness. Kenji sensed this intuitively, but did not yet know how to escape it. Chapter 2. The Principle of Ichijuzamai. In ancient Japanese training halls, there was a principle known as Ichijuzamai, meaning complete absorption in a single practice. The warrior did not train many things at once, nor did he seek variety. He repeated the same movement, the same strike, the same posture, until it no longer belonged to him. Only then was it considered mastered. Kenji encountered this idea not through a book, but through exhaustion. He had been rotating between methods, routines, and philosophies, believing variety would accelerate growth. Instead, it fractured his attention and weakened his commitment. The samurai understood that depth requires exclusion and mastery demands sacrifice. Musashi trained the same cuts thousands of times, often alone, often without instruction. He believed that repetition was not about perfecting form, but about dissolving conscious interference. When the body knows without instruction, the mind can finally become silent. Chapter 3. The First Surrender. Kenji chose one practice and removed everything else. He trained at the same hour each day, in the same manner, with the same focus. At first, his mind resisted violently, searching for novelty, stimulation, and progress. This resistance was not physical, but psychological, a defense of identity. Zen teaches that the ego survives through variation and distraction. When repetition exposes its emptiness, it fights back. Kenji learned that discipline is not forcing action, but enduring boredom without escape. The samurai called this endurance gammon, the strength to remain without complaint. Weeks passed without visible improvement, and this tested his resolve more than difficulty ever had. The practice did not reward him with excitement or affirmation. Instead, It demanded presence without feedback, a condition most modern minds find unbearable. Chapter 4. The Death of Intent. Something subtle changed as the weeks continued. Kenji noticed moments where action occurred without inner dialogue. His body moved before instruction, and his awareness widened instead of narrowing. These moments were brief, but unmistakable. In Zen, this is known as Mushin, the no-mind state. It is not the absence of awareness, but the absence of obstruction. The samurai cultivated this state so that action flowed directly from perception, without delay or distortion. Thought was not eliminated, but placed in its proper position, after action, not before it. Musashi described this as the moment when the sword moves by itself. The warrior does not feel fast or powerful, only clear. Kenji realized that progress was not measured by effort, but by the disappearance of effort. Chapter 5. Training Beyond Motivation. The samurai never relied on motivation. Motivation was considered unstable, influenced by mood and circumstance. Instead, they built systems so simple they could survive fatigue, doubt, and fear. Training occurred regardless of internal state. Kenji stopped asking how he felt before training. He treated the practice as inevitable, like sunrise. This removed negotiation from his mind and freed energy that had been wasted on decision-making. The act became smaller, quieter, and more consistent. Zen discipline is built on non-negotiable actions. Not heroic effort, but daily submission to form. Over time, the practice no longer felt imposed. It felt natural, like breathing. This was the moment where discipline ceased to be an identity and became a condition. Chapter 6. The Empty Middle. There is a phase in training the samurai warned about, but rarely described. It is the empty middle, where the old self has dissolved, but the new self has not yet formed. Progress feels invisible, and meaning temporarily vanishes. Kenji entered this phase without realizing it. His practice no longer felt difficult, but it also no longer felt rewarding. There was no excitement, no struggle, and no clear sense of advancement. This was the most dangerous stage, because it offered no emotional reinforcement. Musashi lived in this space for years, training in isolation, without recognition or validation. Zen teaches that this emptiness is not failure, but purification. Only when the desire for outcome disappears can true capacity emerge. Chapter 7. Thought falls away. One morning, during an ordinary session, Kenji noticed something unexpected. There was no inner voice commenting on his performance. There was no correction, no encouragement, no judgment. Action unfolded cleanly, without interruption. This was not a dramatic breakthrough. It was quiet, almost unnoticeable, but unmistakably different. The practice felt lighter, simpler, and more direct. Kenji understood that he was no longer practicing. He was executing. In samurai terms, this is when technique becomes spirit. The form no longer belongs to the practitioner. The practitioner belongs to the form. Thought did not vanish permanently, but it lost its authority. Chapter 8. The Modern Application. The value of this discipline extends far beyond physical training. In conversation, decision-making, and crisis, the same principle applies. When thought dominates action, hesitation and distortion follow. When training has prepared the body and mind, action becomes accurate and calm. Kenji noticed changes in how he responded to pressure. He listened more fully, reacted less defensively, and acted without rehearsing outcomes. This was not confidence in the modern sense, but alignment. Bushido taught that the warrior prepares so thoroughly that fear has no time to speak. Preparation replaces emotion. When thought disappears, clarity remains. Chapter 9. The Final Teaching. Musashi wrote that the ultimate aim of martial training is to forget technique entirely. When nothing remains to be remembered, everything becomes available. This forgetting is not ignorance, but transcendence. Kenji no longer sought improvement. He simply maintained the practice that had reshaped him. The absence of striving preserved the presence he had earned. This was not the end of training, but the end of conflict within it. Zen does not promise peace as comfort. It offers peace as accuracy. The mind becomes still not because the world is gentle, but because it is no longer resisted. Conclusion. The quiet path to train until thought disappears is not to escape thinking, but to place it in service of life. The samurai understood that the mind is a tool, not a master. When training is deep enough, the tool rests quietly until needed. This path requires patience, exclusion, and humility. It offers no spectacle, no quick reward, and no external validation. What it gives instead is reliability under pressure and clarity without effort. In a world obsessed with expression and explanation, this discipline remains rare. But for those willing to endure repetition and silence, it still works. Train until thought disappears, and action will finally belong to you. Please hit subscribe. See you in next video.